Hi, I'm Suzanne Castle, and this is the Thought Leader Thursday. I'm here today introducing you to another incredible leader, thinker, doer, and all-around amazing human who's going to help each of us think about our world a little bit differently than anyone else. From artists to teachers, from actors to moms, from the big names to the you didn't know about them till now names, my hope is that you will connect with a leader who helps you light up in your corner of this galaxy. This is the Thought Leader Thursday show. Hi, welcome back to Thought Leader Thursday. My name is Suzanne Castle, and you are in for a dynamo in the leadership and coaching spectrum. Hang on to your hats. I know she's going to give us some knowledge bombs. You're going to be ready to write down things, amazing things. So, Andrew, I've been thinking there's been a lot about in the political realm, there's been a lot of leaders, there's been in the media. It doesn't matter what sphere or spectrum that we might find. When people are talking and they're trying to share an idea, there usually is a word that instantly takes away their credibility. And that word might be different person to person. So I'm curious, the word for me is like. Every other person when they're like, and like this, and oh my gosh, like, and like, when they can't figure out what to say and they fill the space with like. So Andrew, what word is it for you?
Mine's kind of weirdly, you don't hear it very often, but when I hear it, I'm like, meh, is etc. Like they just like don't actually know what they're going to end with. So they're going to just end with etc., etc., etc.
Right.
And it just drives me nuts for some reason.
I agree. Being pithy and understanding how to finish is an amazing part of communication, especially in the leadership space, because you want people to come towards you and not be repelled by you, and words matter. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about that with our lovely guests. So I am excited to introduce you to Terre Short. Terre is changing the world one word at a time. She is always on high alert for words that minimize or limit or those that elevate and inspire. And don't we want to all be in the space that is about elevation and inspiration? She wrote a book on this topic and has created 4 online courses. She is a coach for some of the biggest companies on the planet, Fortune 500 companies. And what she does is she gets inside and she helps them hone their impact and own their perspective through their word choices. Not only does she hold her MBA, she also has her PCC, has served in many C-suite leader roles, and currently she is the major boss babe at Thriving Leader Collaborative, which I know we're going to talk a little bit about today. She is passionate. She is forward thinking. She is a dynamo about serving others to thrive and to lead from a place of joy. Terre, welcome. I know you're tuning in from Idaho today. Thank you for coming in the studio with us.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. And I'm just going to coin that now, major boss babe.
Well, you are a major boss babe, and I'm so excited to have you. You know, I love how your collaborative model was established. Really, you are incredible about resourcing, about sharing tools, really leading out of a win-win philosophy with this generous spirit. You're very forward thinking in how you're modeling leadership as a coach. So I would love for you to begin our time together with us, giving us a clear definition of what it means to be a thriving leader.
Absolutely. Well, from my perspective, at my age, we're all in this together, and it doesn't get any easier to be a leader. Day by day, it doesn't get any easier. It just kind of gets harder and harder, and we have information overload. So the only way I believe a leader can thrive is to strike the right combination of attention to their well-being and using some of those pillars of well-being, so presence and self-awareness, intuition, movement, energetic hygiene, even using those practices that fall under those strengths to serve your leadership challenges. That's how we win. And the more I can influence leaders, I'm on a mission, Suzanne, 30,000 leaders by 2030.
Wow. 30,000 leaders by 2030. That's a lot of leaders every single year. And I really know that you have this wonderful way to get people to show up to work with you and alongside you. And I love what Thrive means for you and how you really are fostering collaboration over competition. Because I think that is the wave of the future in leadership. And these old narratives that we've been a part of, where you're climbing over the next person to get up on the corporate ladder. I really want to do away with corporate ladder altogether and help everyone rise at the same time. And I know that's really tried and true, the strategies that you're sharing, and you've tested them and really part of your work. And so you talk a lot about words and how those form us, how they shape us, how they definitely help us to show up in the very best next level in ourselves. So talk to us a little bit about the impact that we have when we use certain choices. We have the ability to lead ourselves and others, and word choices really matter in that space.
They really do. And from my perspective, it begins with the word choices I use for myself. So I call it my personal podcast. So I'm listening to my podcast, and I am the narrator, producer, director, host. I get to decide who comes on and what we talk about. And sometimes I don't take control of that decision. Sometimes I allow the narrative of others, maybe from my past, to come on. And sometimes I just choose straight up limiting and minimizing words for myself. So it starts there. You know, how can I switch out some of those words that are minimizing? For instance, I might, or probably,
right,
or I should, all of those sort of minimizing wishy-washy words, and show up with much more commitment and choose words such as I will, I can.
I love that. You know, I am fond to say with my own clients, don't should all over yourself. I think it's so hard to get out of that space. And one of the techniques I know I use, enoughness is a big deal to me, and how I am enough and how I showing up in my enoughness. I think enoughness is a power. I was texting and tweeting about that earlier today, but I use an expo marker on my mirror where I get ready in the morning, and I might have this mantra or my word for the week. And so I can catch myself constantly every time I pass by that mirror, making sure that I'm staying in that positive frame with word choices. Is there an example that you could give, or maybe a tidbit to help?
I think that's a great strategy, because I was interviewed for Fast Company a year or so ago. And, you know, we went through this list of, I think it was 10 or 12 words or phrases to abandon, for leaders to abandon. And it's not so much about abandoning them straight up. It's about replacing them.
Right.
So taking away the minimizing ones and replacing them with ones that serve. And what I like to say is that you can't unsee the list. Let's start there. But you also cannot fix it all at one time, right? I'm out of pixie dust. I can't, you know. So we're going to choose one, like you said, on your mirror, one word that I hear myself saying routinely. And for me, for a while there, it was if. I was saying, well, you know, if this or if that. Well, how inspiring is that? It's not hopeful. It's not anything. And so when I hear leaders say, well, if we meet our goals,
right,
you know, or if this project is finished on time, we switch that out with when. So it would be on your mirror, it would be if, cross it out, when. So acknowledge the word that you're going to abandon, because, you know, own it. I've been using this word too much, and now I will abandon it, and I'm replacing it with this other word, so that when the trigger happens, you've got the other word at the ready.
I love that. I was with a group of clients earlier today, and we were talking about this because this month we're focusing on communication and how to show up. And I'm a big advocate of communication agendas in a meeting and understanding how you say what you say so that the person across the table can hear you and understand what you're trying to say. And I gave them this example of the time I got a role that I auditioned for, and that role was really kind of above me. I went on a whim because I was trying to stretch myself, and I was the last person that they were auditioning. They were tired. They had already cast the show, didn't know that at the time. And I got on the stage and I did my bit and I sang my 12 bars, and they stopped me early and they're like, okay, thanks. We've already cast the show, but we appreciate you showing up. And one of the people that was behind the table said, you know, if we were to change our mind, we were to cast you, why should we put you in this show? And I don't know what inside of me allowed me to say this, but I said, because I bring the razzmatazz. And I walked
Yay.
off the stage and I said, thank you so much. And I got the role. And 10 minutes later, they called me and gave me the role. But I think it's that claiming, like you said, you have to claim that word and really live into it and understand its power to move you forward, but also bring people back into your sphere. And that's really what we want to be as leaders, right? We're not a leader if we don't have people around us. So I think the work that you're doing is extremely powerful. So I know on your website and we'll put in all sorts of tidbits in the show notes. Please go all the places with Terre. She has so much content. There's newsletters, there's free resources, there's ways to watch training. So she's very, very generous, as I said earlier. So I know that part of your work, though, is about that impactful strength that you can bring as a leader. So if you could tell us kind of what you do believe are the most meaningful strengths for a leader to have, and maybe help us shift our narrative there.
Well, I'm glad that you're asking this question, because I think the answer, see, I do it myself sometimes.
I love that you're modeling it. It's great.
That's another one. I take that out. And I believe very wholeheartedly that my answer might differ from what others say. I believe that leaders at this juncture, at this point in the world with all that's going on, boils down to two things: communication and connection. And then all these different arms go off from there. So communication with myself. So I talked about that self-awareness, my personal podcast,
right?
Communication internally and then externally. And the same thing with connection, like how deeply I connect with my own well-being, how deeply I take responsibility for that, how I might connect in nature. And it's only until I get that straight and I'm fully centered that then I'm prepared to connect with others in a meaningful way. So communication and connection are the two things I encourage all leaders to focus on.
Wow. So if someone was going to start that journey, and let's say that they had some of this down, but not another, what would be one maybe resource, one idea, one strategy that they could start this kind of deep internal work?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Well, as you said, I like to share, and share more. So there are a lot of resources on our brand new website, and that leads you to a lot about communication. So obviously I wrote the book, and I like to talk about how communication is key. So that's the place to start. But when we start to do the well-being training, and I host workshops and retreats and such, then we're going deeper into how to connect to self, and whether that's building up your sense of presence, being in the present moment, your self-awareness, the use of your intuition and your inner knowing. And so there are lots of ways, and there are lots of resources. I mean, I personally, I meditate every day. I use the Chopra app. There are lots of different ways that you can connect to self.
Right.
To build into your daily routine. So I like to think about how we have 16, best case scenario, we have 16 waking hours every day. Some of us a little more, some of us a little less, unfortunately. And so where can we carve out that time to connect to ourselves first and foremost, and then endeavor to connect on a higher level with others?
I love this. And two things that you just said that I think are so powerful. The first is making time to do this work. So for you meditate, you use an app, but carving out that time is absolutely crucial. And then you said, and understanding the power that has. Because I think once you begin to establish that this is the way that you want to be in the world, and you live into it, and let's face it, 21 days isn't long enough. I know that they say 21 days, but I think it takes much longer, especially when you're doing alignment work inside of you. So, and you spend time doing that, you don't want to not do that. You would do everything to keep that, because you realize you kind of lift yourself up. And as you're lifting yourself up, you're lifting others up too. And so that you kind of play off of each other's energy, but you have to understand first and foremost at a core who you are and what you desire to do that work. And I love that you're like, there are free resources. There's an app. You create time to do that. You've made it a priority for yourself first before you go out in the world. And I'm so appreciative to hear that, because there are so many people that are like, ooh, buy this thing, buy this thing, buy this thing. And the first thing that you're saying is, well, wait, let's just take a moment and figure out yourself. And you can do that work by yourself. You can also hire a coach. I'm one, you're one. You can buy a course. I have some, you have some, but you can also just begin in a slower way and with different apps, or just meditating or praying or whatever it is that you do every day.
Right.
Yeah, that's really powerful.
I want to tie it back, if I might, to your enoughness, which I just love that phrase. That
Thank you.
I hadn't thought to put it together like that. Enoughness, and actively choosing that in this coming week, I will feel good about the enoughness of my well-being.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to plot and actively, proactively plot what I'm going to feel is enough.
Yes.
For me and my well-being. I love that.
I love that you caught that and that you are intentionally planning for it, because we can't just wait for it to happen. We have to make things happen with our action. So, all right. I ask every guest to give us their definition of what they think it means to sparkle. And I can't wait to hear yours, Terry.
Well, I believe ignite joy is what is sparkle to me. So that's whether I'm igniting joy by going out in nature myself, or I'm igniting the joy of others. That's sparkle, and that lights me up. And so ignite joy for myself, for others. I'm all in.
I think that's a great definition of what it means to sparkle. And you definitely do embody that on your website, in this interview, and the way that you're showing up for so many leaders. I'm so grateful that you gave us a little bit of time here today. Thank you for being a fabulous guest on the Thought Leader Thursday. Those of you that are catching this episode, I do want to give you a little sneak peek into our next episode. We are featuring the comedian Heather Tully Bauer, who's been on some of the biggest stages in the world, and I can't wait for you to laugh alongside us. I'm Suzanne Castle, and this is the Thought Leader Thursday.